Happy Friday morning, everybody. I wanted to share with you an idea or a topic I've been thinking about the last couple of days since I started this YouTube channel, and this is one of the ones I wanted to do right off the bat. The situations that are brought to destroy you can be the very situations that help redefine you. And I use the word redefine instead of define because redefine means that you're doing something again. You're doing it over. So you're already defined as a person when you're going through a situation, but you can let the situations that are brought to destroy you actually help redefine you. And I'll talk about this a little bit more. Let me start off with a story, okay? And there was a guy, whenever I was in my preteen years to early teen years, there was a guy I knew that told me this story about a farmer that had a goat. The farmer had this well on his property that had been dried up for years. And he had a goat that was always climbing on stuff and jumping on stuff. And every time he'd go outside, that goat would be everywhere trying to get on top of stuff. And one day that goat jumped up on that well and fell in the well. Well, of course, to the farmer's dismay, he tried to go over there and get him out. And every attempt the farmer made to get the goat out was a failed attempt. Several days after the farmer kept trying and trying, the farmer finally gave up, and he came to a conclusion that that goat was going to die in that well and that there was no way to get him out. Now, that goat could have just give up, and that goat could have just rolled over and died. See, that's what that situation was designed to do. That goat ended up in that hole, and because the farmer could not help him, there was no other options for the goat. So the goat thought. And so the farmer thought. I mean, in your situation, sometimes in your situation, you do not see a way out. But sometimes having a positive vibe in the middle of a negative situation can be what helps you through. That farmer tried a couple days to get that goat out, and he finally gave up on that goat. Well, the farmer decided, well, that well should have been filled in years ago, and I never got around to it. But now that goat's down there and he's going to die down there, I'll give him a couple of days of dying, then I'm going to come and fill in that well. Since I never got to it, I'll go ahead and do it now. So he waited a couple of days and went and checked in the well and couldn't hear the goat and figured the goat was dead. He went and got wheelbarrows of dirt and started filling in the hole. He spent 15, 20 minutes filling in the hole, and before you knew it, he spent an hour filling in the hole and started hearing a noise, but he couldn't figure out what it was. He just assumed it was the noise of the dirt hitting the bottom of the well. Well, it took him a couple of days to fill in that hole, but after the first or second day, he noticed that the noise kept getting closer and closer. The more dirt he put in that well, the closer the noise got to him. So he just figured it's just the dirt piling up or whatever. But once he got about 3/4 of the way up, filled in that well, he realized that the goat was alive and the goat was at the top of the dirt. The noise he had been hearing was that old goat. Every time the farmer had threw in a shovel of dirt to bury that goat stood up and flung that dirt off his back and stomped on it, okay, and packed it up underneath his feet. It was meant to bury him. It was meant to destroy him. Now, let me stop right here and say, look, that goat, the situation the goat was in, the goat was kind of at his own fault for getting him in that situation. He accidentally jumped down the well. Let me talk about that briefly. Sometimes we do make mistakes as humans. Sometimes we make bad decisions that can get us jammed up. I totally understand it. I've been there. I've done it. I'm not talking to anybody specifically. I'm not talking about anybody. I'm talking about me, Josh. I have made bad decisions that have jammed me up, and I felt like the bad decision I made was going to destroy me. I felt like the decisions I made were going to bury me. I felt like they were going to be the end of me. Let me say it like that. I felt like I had no way out sometimes. And when you're in the middle of a situation like that, it's hard. It's hard to see the out sometimes. But you got to always stay positive. That old goat could have got down on his luck and just gave up, and that dirt very well could have buried him. But that goat must have had some streak of positivity in him, because when he started seeing that dirt flying down at him, he jumped up and wiggled it off of his back and stomped on it and wiggled it off his back and kept stomping on it. And before you knew it, the more dirt that old farmer put in that well, the higher that old goat got, to the point that the farmer actually saw the goat was alive. And wow, man, this goat, he figured this trick out. He's putting this dirt up underneath him, and he's going to be able to get out. The old farmer finished filling in as he finished to continue filling in the well, the goat kept getting higher and higher, to the point that the goat could jump out of the well himself. The goat understood the situation he was in, and in his situation, he understood he was there because of his own fault. He jumped in the well, and while he may have been injured, he was able to still get up on top of that dirt and keep putting it up underneath him to the point he could get out. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you can find a streak of positivity, if you can find an ounce of positivity, when you're in the middle of a situation that seems like there's no hope, there's no way out, that is the time that you look at your options. Sometimes you have to think outside the box. Sometimes you have to let me say it like this. Sometimes you got to do things differently than what you're used to doing. My old pastor growing up, he had a great saying. He said, if you always do things the same way you've always done, you'll always get the same results you've always gotten. And what that means to me is that sometimes you do have to do things a little different. And when you're in a situation that just seems like you can't get out, you feel like it's going to be the end of you mentally, stress wise, it's just going to be the end. That's the time to sit back and look and say, okay, look, there's a reason everything happens, whether it's fate, whether it's karma, whether it's put in your path to challenge you. One of the friends I've shared the story with recently, he was dealing with a situation, and I kind of just mentioned to him, I said, look, maybe this is the opportunity you've been waiting on. Yes, the situation you're dealing with right now is not ideal. It's a hard situation to be in. But maybe this is the opportunity you have been waiting on to get out and spread your wings on these other things that you had been wanting to do. And go ahead and get out and spread them wings. Maybe this particular situation has come your way so that you could redefine who you are and do something different, so that you could try to do that thing that you've been thinking about doing but never had the guts to do. Well, now that you're in this situation, things are a little bit different. You're not in a comfortable spot. So sometimes out of desperation, you may be willing to try something new, but do it with a positive attitude. And I'm telling you, positivity goes a long way. An ounce of positive, this is my personal belief. And like I said in my first video, I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a psychologist. I don't study human behavior. I've dealt with ups and downs my whole life. And as a young teenager, I learned that an ounce of positivity could wash away 10 ounces of negativity. It's like the little light in a dark room. It only takes a tiny little light for you to be able to see in the darkest of rooms. Sometimes that's all you need, is just to be able to see a different perspective just a little bit for you to be able to move forward and get past the situation you're in. Now, I'm hoping that I related my idea and my thoughts properly with the story about the goat. Whenever I was told the story about the goat, it was basically described to me like, hey, look, we all make mistakes. We all can fall short. We all can make bad decisions. But it's what we do after that. It's what we do once we're in the funk. It's what we do when we're down in the valley. It's what we do when we're at our wits' end, you know, and you got to lift yourself up out of the funk, and you got to get up. You got to shimmy off that dirt off your shoulders and put it underneath your feet and stand up and say, I'm not going to let it destroy me. I'm going to do something different. And yes, this might not be something that's comfortable for me because it's out of my norm. Yes, it's totally different than anything I've ever done before. But you know what? This situation may call for a different response from me. And by doing so, I may get a positive outcome. If not, at least I don't go down without knowing I didn't try. But I'm telling you, the story about the goat, I heard that in my early teen years, and that story stuck with me my whole life. And every time I make a bad decision and I find myself in a spot where I am a victim of my own circumstance that I created. That's the best way for me to say it. I am a victim of my own circumstance that I've created. I have to see the situation what it's for. I can't blame nobody but myself. But let me think about the situation a little bit different. Let me push forward with a different idea. Let the situation that was meant to get me down, let me try to find a little light in that dark situation and move forward. I guess in summary, what I'm trying to say is, look, when you're in the middle of a situation, when you're in the middle of your funk, when you're in the middle of whatever situation it is you're dealing with, and you don't see a way out, know that there's always options. There is always options. The problem is sometimes we do not see the options because they are not in our comfort zone. All right. So when you're dealt a situation, just remember, sometimes you need to think outside the box. Sometimes you need to look outside the box and let it present opportunities to you to do something different. Redefine how you do things, redefine how you look at the situation. But I hope this topic is helpful for somebody. Like I said, I'm not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist. I don't even study human behavior, but I have studied myself a lot. I've looked in the mirror a whole lot. I've made a lot of stupid mistakes. I've been the only person to blame for some of the stupidest, dumbest decisions I've ever made. And I can't blame nobody but myself. And part of the hardest thing to do is come to terms with myself and being honest about the fact that I'm the one that put myself there. Nobody else, I did. But realizing that maybe that's an opportunity for me to think differently and do things differently so that I don't make those same mistakes again. Let those situations redefine me. Let me try to be the best me I can be. Let me to try and make better decisions moving forward. If you got any questions or if you have anything you'd like to talk about, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is linked to my YouTube account there. I tell you what, the last year has been kind of hard. We've had a few losses around us, and a lot of it has to do with mental health. And I'm going to talk more about this later, but to anybody that's out there that knows somebody that's struggling with mental health, please reach out to them. It's important that you do your part as a friend, because if you don't, you may lose a friend. And this is something I'm personally dealing with right now. If you know somebody that's having trouble, if you know somebody that's going through it, be there for them. Make sure you are available to them as a friend, even if it's just for them to talk to you and you just listen. Everybody needs somebody in their corner when they're going through something. I hope everybody has a great Friday. Be like that old goat. Shake that dirt off your shoulders. Stomp it underneath your feet. Do things a little differently. Get a different result. Find that positivity in your day. Put that sweetener in your lemonade when you drink it. I hope you have a great Friday today. And until next week, stay positive, my friend.